The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
By tomorrow, I will rule the world!
You think he's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
Is this some radical new therapy?
You see?
Well, I must have not been paying attention when you were just talking to me. Do you think that you could repeat the question? And I listen more.
Is it me or is it hot in here? Oh,
I'm good.
There must have been something in all of that nothing that wasn't quite so easy to see. And I must have missed something when you were just talking to me.
It's like a 5-step process. Facebook just sucks so bad. Can you pull me up a little bit, hon? Is it okay to call you hon? I don't want to be sued for sexual harassment.
I'm not going to cry about it, Tom.
Yeah, if you could bring me up a little bit. Yeah, that's good.
There you go.
Excellent. Now let's get a watch party going. To dance something in all of that nothing.
If you could avoid calling me a skirt, maybe that might.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Maybe.
Not on the air anyway. Privately, I might. What did Perry say the other day? You're a walking HR violation, he told me. And he's right about that. Be the riddle, hand me a What's good is we actually have a studio audience today. I like that. At least she's not going to give me shit about my smoking. Don't mind just a little. Well, Eric looks pretty good on TV, huh? Look at that.
Yeah, who knew?
Actually, I got a couple of emails from some women asking me who you were.
Oh, really?
Like, he's really good looking. Do you know him? Who is that?
You gave out my number?
I don't like to do that unless I ask first.
Okay. All right, you have permission, though.
All righty. Must have not been paying attention.
We'll have to pay attention to your numbers there, Tom. See if we get much higher viewership all of a sudden.
Right. The last thing in the world I wanted to do today was do a show. There's so much going on, it's ridiculous. All right, I guess we'll start the show. You want to start the show? We're doing a show, right? We're live? Is that it? Right?
We're live.
All right, let's start the show.
Do this.
Hi, my name's Tom Dugan here with the Paying Attention Podcast. Hi, Top Two Guys Smoke Shop at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. And we were going to have Kirk Minihane on today to talk about the Supreme Court case that has made the Massachusetts. It's gone all the way up to the Massachusetts State Supreme Court. He postponed last minute, and that's too bad because I've got my new intern, Eric, is with us, and I don't know anything about sports, and Kirk is a sports guy, so I figured I'd bring Eric in because he's a sports guy, and I could talk about like the legal stuff that has to do with the Supreme Court, and then he could ask him like sports stuff, and it would be like a really good show, and then he postponed last minute. So we're gonna do a shorter version of the program, I think. Well, the last time I said that we went 10 minutes over, so you just never know what's going to happen, what's going to come out of my mouth at some point on the show. A couple of things I want to get to before I introduce Eric. Let's see, what's my list here? The Valley Patriot is out on the street. It's being delivered as we speak. Couple of interesting things in here. We had my new intern, Eric, my new reporter, because I don't have time to do this stuff. So I called him and said, hey, listen, go out and online and find like all the COVID information for the surrounding communities and compile something. And I thought like when it came in, because he's never done this before, I was going to have to kind of like rewrite it. Because a lot of times people will write some stuff for me and I'll use it as a foundation and then I'll kind of rewrite it and make it. But it was good when it came in. I didn't have to really edit that much. So we have all the new COVID numbers in this edition of the Valley Patriot when you pick it up. We've got our Methuen Mayor Perry report in the paper this month, a whole bunch of other stuff. And as always, we always on the front page of the paper like to honor a veteran. And this month, we're honoring my second cousin. He's a great guy, Tommy Murphy, former Lawrence police officer. John Cuddy, who writes our our tributes to the veterans every month, is on this new kick about honoring veterans that then became police officers when they came back from, whatever war or wherever they served. And it has served him well. This is the second one that I think it's really, really good. And at one point, we actually had about a year ago, we were going to do Mike Samad because he was in the Air Force. He's a hero. He's not just a hero police officer, but he's also Air Force veteran. And then he decided to run for office. So I was like, well, if he's going to run for office and I do it, it's going to look like I'm just doing it because he's running for office. So I was just going to wait until he's been in office for a little while. And then he screwed me. So I was like, wow, like, how do I do that now? Because he's certainly not going to cooperate with any reporter from the Valley Patriot that's going to call him now that he's sticking knives in my back. So we have another really good guy, and I'm not going to say who it is, but it's somebody everybody knows for next month. And John Cuddy, I want to thank John Cuddy. He's doing a great job. What else do we have? Let's see. Okay, so I submitted a public records request to the City of Methuen because Methuen Mayor Neil Perry's always here saying how transparent he is. And I believe him. I think he's a pretty transparent guy. And I submitted a public records request to the City of Methuen asking for the names and salary and overtime of the top 10 paid workers in the Methuen DPW. And I got this email. Actually, I didn't get an email, by the way. Somebody told me it was posted on the city website, which is another whole conversation we have to have at some point, that they had posted online the answer to my request. So I went online and I downloaded all these documents thinking, okay, they gave me what I want and I'm going to be able to put it in the paper. And when I opened it, everything was blacked out. So they blacked out the name of the employee and the salary of the employee, but they gave me the document like somehow that's compliant with the state's public records request. And it's not, because newsflash, I wrote the state's public records law. I wrote about 2/3 of it. There's like a bunch of sections in there that were written by Jamie Eldridge, the state senator. There's a couple of provisions in there that were written by Linda Campbell, the state rep. But I worked with all of them. I wrote the foundation of it, and I sent it in. It took 4 years to get it passed, and we got it passed. And so now I've got the City of Methuen lawyers telling me that DPW workers, city workers, who are paid for with taxpayer dollars, their names and their salaries are not a public record. And I had to wonder to myself that if that's the case, how come Joe Solomon's name and salary has been in the paper for like the last 5 years? How does that work? So I called the Secretary of State's office. They know me well, and I've worked very well with them over the last few years. And I actually consulted with them when I wrote the state's public records law, and actually testified with Secretary Galvin at several subcommittee meetings at the State House. And they took my call and they said, we know when you call, it's usually a good case because I don't bother them all the time. And I submitted my appeal. They notified Methuen today that they have the appeal. And usually within about 4 or 5 days, we get an answer. And when we get an answer, I'm expecting that answer to be them demanding the City of Methuen to stop playing games and give me the name and amount paid to all they say they don't have a list of like the top 10, right? Their answer was we would have to compile that from our records, and we're not obligated to compile stuff. So I also asked for a copy of all of the legal contracts, all the money that they're spending on lawyers. And on top of that, I asked for how much money did they spend on those attorneys above and beyond the contract. Because Steve Saber, the city council president, said at a meeting one day that they were talking about a legal contract, and he made a comment about, I know we went over our contract last month, or I know we're spending a lot of money, but it's worth every penny. So I started thinking, and I said, well, we should find out what that is and let the public know what that is. I mean, that's not a gotcha thing. That's just kind of like the public has the right to know. So they send me a thing back saying, yeah, you're not entitled to that. You didn't ask for it the right way. We don't have a list of how much. So what I have to do now is, because now they're playing games, which is bizarre because I thought this was a transparent administration. Now what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to ask for all of the invoices that the city has received from lawyers or law firms that the city that the city has gotten for legal bills. And I'm pretty sure they're going to pull the same crap. I'm pretty sure when I'm going to submit that today, and in 10 days, they're going to upload everything blacked out online, and then I'm going to have to go back to the Secretary of State. I feel like Willie Lantigua's around. Like, I feel like Willie Lantigua's the mayor around here. Like, I really do. When Willie Lantigua was mayor of Lawrence, he wouldn't give me anything. Like, I asked him, I sent a public records request one day for his schedule, which is clearly a public record. He's a mayor. He's paid for with taxpayers' dollars. The schedule is compiled with taxpayers' dollars, and he refused to give it to me. And I also asked for a bunch of other stuff, and I had to take him to court. And the judge told me at the time, Judge Canetta told me at the time, geez, Tom, the only thing I can do is order him to give it to you, but if he refuses, there's nothing in the law that penalizes him for refusing. And I said, well, Judge, can't you cite him for contempt of court for violating your order? Yeah, not on this, he says, not on a civil thing like this. I really can't. So that's when I decided to get together with Katie Ives, Diana DiZoglio, Jamie Eldridge, the state senator, and State Representative Linda Campbell. And it took us 4 years to get that passed. So under the new law, if I have to take a municipality to court to get public records, and the judge rules in my favor, they have to pay my filing fee with the court, and they have to pay my legal fees with the court, and they have to pay my time out of work to go to court to get the documents. That was the beauty of what I wrote, because prior to that, Willie Lantigua looked me in the eye, the former mayor of Lawrence. He looked me in the eye one day and said, I'm never giving you those documents for as long as I'm mayor. I don't care what the judge says. There's no penalty in the law. There's nothing you can do to me. Like, he told me to my face. I at least respect that. As much as I didn't like it because he's an a-hole, I at least respected that he looked me in the eye and said, what the real story was. I'm not giving it to you no matter what. So once Dan Rivera got into office, Dan called me on his first day in office and said, I've got about 8 public records requests sitting on my desk from you that are about 4 years old. Come down tomorrow and I'll give you everything you need. That was great. So I got everything I needed. It was irrelevant by that point because Willie was already out of office, right? And all the things that he had done were pretty much irrelevant for the most part. But at least we were able to pass the law. And the law still needs to be tweaked. I'm working with Diana DiZoglio, our state senator, and I'm working with a few other legislators to try and tweak the state public records law because they wrote in, like at the very last minute before they passed that law, they wrote in the margins a whole bunch of stuff that waters it down. For example, they exempted the governor's office. Now, why would they exempt the governor's office? They exempted themselves. So if I want to do a public records request and ask for the emails of a state rep back and forth to maybe some company that donated to their campaign to see if they got some kind of special favor, they don't have to give me that. They made that an exception to the state's public records law. So we still need to tweak it a little bit, but at least we've got what we've got, and I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% positive that they will be able to delay it with all their obfuscation tactics. But at the end of the day, we're going to find out the information that I asked for. And I wasn't going to tell you this, but since they're being so difficult, I am going to tell you this. The reason I'm asking for the DPW pay is that we've been hearing rumors now for the last year that City Council President Steve Saber's son, and I'm not somebody that goes after people's family, right? But if you're a public employee, that's different. If you're a public person, it's different. And normally I would never go after anybody's family, and I'm not going after this guy, obviously. But I wanted to know how much. I've been hearing that this guy has only been there for a few years and that he's got more overtime than guys that have been there for 35 years because he's the council president's son. So I submitted my public records request just simply asking for, give me the top 10 paid DPW employees and all their overtime, right? Now, maybe I'm going to get those documents and it's going to show that the rumors we've been hearing aren't true. Maybe it's not true. Maybe the guy's not the most highest paid. Maybe that's not the case, but I need the documents to see one way or the other. And I have a feeling that that's the reason they're not giving it to me. I have a feeling now that I'm right, because if I was wrong, I think they would have just given me the information. So originally my story was going to be how much money DPW is running up in overtime. And by the way, that's not to say that it's wrong, right? We went through COVID. These guys were out there at 1 a.m. fixing pipes and stuff. So it's not that I'm not saying anybody did wrong, at least not yet, unless I find something in the documents that look wrong. But I do want the documents. And, the old Tom Dugan would have been ballistic if a mayor said, no, you can't have these documents. I'm trying to be as patient as I can. But I'm also not going to sit back on my ass and let them lie to me. Like, they literally lied in a document saying that this is not a public record, that it's an exception to the public records law. And it's not. So you can look forward to that sometime in the next week or two when we get the documents, and I'm pretty sure we will get the documents. We will write a story if there's something there. If there isn't something there, I'll go on Facebook and say, look, we got the documents, we looked through it, and there's nothing there. And that's just that's just the way it is. By the way, I very much respect Neil Perry in the job that he does. And I've always gone out of my way to try and respect and try and not do things that I think might hurt the guy, right? That's the new Tom Dugan. The new Tom Dugan is now gone. We're back to the old Tom Dugan. The old Tom Dugan asks for information. If he doesn't get it, I'm going to be a bulldog and I'm going to get the information and then let the information speak for itself. Because my opinion doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to anybody what my opinion is. I write opinion columns. Some people like it, some people don't. But when I'm writing a report, when I put on my reporter's hat and take off my opinion hat, it's just about what the information says. That's it. So we're gonna hang on to that. We're gonna be, as much as I can, I'm gonna be fighting to try and get those documents. And as soon as I get them, I've got a few more public records requests that I'm gonna be submitting that have to do with the school department. Because I was thinking when I was watching last week's show, and I mentioned last week that all of those city councils that came here and debated for Methuen, they all said during the election that they were going to investigate how Judy Scannell, the former superintendent, was a superintendent for 10 years without certification, and nobody said anything. How did she get to be superintendent when the 10 years before that, she was a school principal and wasn't certified to be a school principal when she applied to be superintendent? Like, Nobody even bothered to look, and if they did look, they knew, nobody said anything. And they all sat here and said, we're gonna get to the bottom of it, and one candidate even said, and we're gonna name names. And since they got elected, they haven't done anything. So, once I get these public records requests, I got a couple of other public record requests going into the school department. I want to see who was getting raises during COVID. I want to see how much money the teachers union got in step increases. I want to see how many contracts were signed during COVID. How much money did the city spend? How much money did the superintendent spend during COVID? And there may be something there. There may be nothing there. That's why you request the records. So, public records request Tom Dugan is back. I should have been doing this a year ago. I held back a lot because I was really trying to defer to letting the new mayor get his feet wet. I didn't want to break his balls. I didn't want him to think I was breaking his balls. So I held back a lot. And so now I'm just going to do my job. And, if people don't like that, people need other people who I have respected should respect that I have a job to do. And this is the job that I do, and this is the job that I'm going to do. One of the things that I did in the last couple of weeks is I brought on a new reporter, Eric Spagnoil, who's here with us today. Hi, Eric. He asked if he could be an intern. And in full disclosure, I met Eric. Eric's a comedian, right? So I was a judge, but right before COVID, they were doing a comedy, what would you call it, like a comedy competition?
Yeah, it was a comedy contest. It was the 2020 Mr. and Mrs. Funny for Merrimack Valley.
Right. So at Salvatore's Restaurant, who's a great advertiser in the Valley Patriot, they started getting comedy routines, comedians coming in, and big name comedians too. We had that guy Sweeney came in, we had Dave Russo, and then they had this competition, and he asked me to be a judge. He says, I watch your show, you're pretty funny, you could be a judge. So I said, what did you come in, third? Was it second, third?
Second.
Came in second out of all the comedians. I think there was like 10 or 12 comedians that day. And we were going to use them at the bash, and then COVID hit. The week before the bash, we had to cancel the bash. By the way, we are doing a bash this year. I think it's going to be in May. We're waiting for everything to kind of open up a little bit. I don't think we're going to be able to do it at the Fireman's Relief this year. I don't think they're going to be open for it. So we may do it at Salvatore's, which is good for Sal, for Mike Agricola, the owner of Sal's, because they donate the food every year. And now they don't have to carry it all over to the Relief Inn. Now we can just do it there. So we're working on a lot of things. There's a lot of things going on. We're doing a corporate restructuring. Most people think that the Valley Patriot is Tom Dugan. A lot of the politicians make the mistake of thinking that the Valley Patriot is just Tom Dugan. We are a corporation. I have shareholders. I have a board of directors that I have to answer to. We're doing a total restructuring of all of that. And we're hopefully going to have a big announcement to have next week. So anyways, I talked to Eric. He really wants to get into journalism, and my first question was, what were you thinking? Like, there's no money in this business at all, Eric. Why do you want to be a journalist? Like, there's no money in it. It's a horrible job. They force you to write things that aren't true when you write for other newspapers. So I said, you really want to rethink that, I think. And he's like, no, this is what I really want to do. So
yeah, it's true. And I think local journalism is really the last standing form of real journalism. And you told me that journalism is dead.
Yeah, pretty much
over
is.
that interview.
Yeah, I did.
I think ethical journalism is on life support, and we got to decide now whether to pull the plug or try to save it.
Right.
And there's this really interesting book that I was reading before I was talking to you. Is called Democracy Without Journalism, and it basically, breaks down the issues that are happening in journalism today. And a lot of the solution is funding local newspapers, local journalists, stuff like that, and it, kind of restructuring the way we think of journalism and how it's owned and structured.
Right. Because even at the local level, the Eagle Tribune, the reason we started the Valley Patriot in 2004 is because the Eagle Tribune, the Merrimack Valley basically had one paper, right? And if the Eagle Tribune didn't like you, you could do no right. And I used to joke and say, if Tom Dugan or Joe Solomon or Wilfredo LeBoy saved a baby from a burning building, they'd take the picture, reverse the negative, and say, Wilfredo LeBoy puts baby in burning building. Like, if they don't like you, no matter what you do, you can't win with them. And if they like you, no matter what you do, you can do no wrong. And the impetus of why we started this paper, I'll just give you like a real brief. I was on the school committee in Lawrence for 3 years, then I wrote for a newspaper called Rumbo, and then I left. And after I left, somebody from the Lawrence School Department sent me a bunch of documents that showed that the superintendent and school board members were going out to dinner at 1 Mill Street, the most expensive restaurant in Lawrence, and they were running up the school's credit card, and they were buying steak and duck and lobster and alcohol and escargots and all this stuff. So I gave it to a friend at the Tribune and said, don't tell your bosses it came from me, but here's a good story. Here's all the documents. Go. I mean, it's all here, the sign-off sheets and everything. And he called me back 2 weeks later and said, Tom, they're not doing the story. They love Wilfredo LeBoy. Wilfredo LeBoy tips them off about all the stories in the school department, and they don't want to kill the golden goose. So I hung up the phone. The guy's name is John McCone. He works for the Herald now. I hung up the phone, and my girlfriend was with me, and I said, we got to start our own paper. We have to start our own paper. If we're a one-newspaper town and they can cover up theft of school children's money because they like the person who's doing the stealing, then obviously there's enough material. What else are they hiding? Let's start our own paper. And within a month, we had 2 more investors, and we started the paper. And we've been in the black ever since. In fact, it turns out after the first paper came out, we didn't even need the other 2 investors. That me and my girlfriend could have actually done it by ourselves. But I'm glad that we did, because it's all worked out. We're getting ready to celebrate our 17th anniversary, and we get to have our 17th anniversary bash. We didn't get a 16th, so this one's going to have to be really big. We have to make up for last year. Anyways, so that's why we started the paper, because we were sick and tired of the lack of journalism, even at the local level. And they're doing it now in Methuen. They think Steve Saber is the second coming of Christ, and they think that Jim McCarty is the second coming of Christ, and they hate Mayor Perry, which is one of the reasons why we like to cover Mayor Perry in the Valley Patriot, because we want to show people the other side, right? Friend or foe, if someone's not getting a fair deal out there, we want to make sure that we give them a fair deal on our paper. That's why people pick up our paper. That's why they want to. Most of the people who read the Valley Patriot read the Tribune, which is great, because I get emails all the time saying, hey, I just read your story on XYZ, and that's not anything like what the Tribune wrote. Can you square that for me? And I'll send them the documents as to how I wrote the story and why I wrote the story. And they'll go, Jesus Christ, why is the Tribune publishing information that's just wrong? Like, they published that Joe Solomon got hazard pay out of the CARES money, and that Tim Sheehy, the fire department fire chief, got hazard pay out of the CARES money in Methuen, and they didn't. When Neil Perry was here, he said that's just not true. It's a lie. And when he went to them and told them that it wasn't true, they refused to correct it. So there's a whole bunch of people out there thinking that Neil Perry gave the police chief and the fire chief hazard pay out of CARES money, and it's just simply not true. And they won't correct it. So we need a Valley Patriot, whether it's my paper or another paper. We need another paper in the Merrimack Valley. So anyway, I know I asked you a question and talked for 20 minutes.
No, feel free.
So you want to be a reporter. You want to try and save journalism. God bless you, right? But you came to the right place, right? Because if you're interning for another newspaper, it would be very, very different. I'm going to give you free rein, to do your own thing. I'll give you assignments. I'll say this is what I'd like you to work on. Like with the COVID thing, we just needed something in for COVID. But you're also a sports guy, right? You want to write about sports stuff, like local sports stuff?
Yes. I would love to cover the local high school sports. I don't know what the situation is with that right now, which sports are going on, which ones aren't.
That'd be a great first story. What sports are going on right now and what isn't?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it'd be cool for just the kids to see their name in a newspaper. I mean, even if they're not going after a scholarship or to play at the next level, just to have some newspaper clipping to show their grandkids one day, you know, like, hey, look, kids, your grandfather was in the newspaper.
Right,
like,
right.
I think that'd be really cool, and I'd love to do that for
It is
kids.
great. I get a lot of calls from people. I got a call from a lady about a year ago. She said, my granddaughter and I were out planting some flowers in one of those little islands, like in the roadway. They have like these little islands. It's named after my father or my grandfather, and there's a little sign there with his name on it. And we were out there planting flowers, and a guy from the Tribune came by and took our picture and said he was putting it in the paper. He got my name wrong. He got my father's name or grandfather's name wrong, and he got the street wrong where we were. I said, well, do you want me to write a story about how the Tribune got it wrong? She said, no. Can you just put the right information in if I send you a picture? Because we can't cut this out and put it in a scrapbook. It's all wrong. Like, my name's wrong. So we did. She sent us a picture. We put it in the paper. She called me afterwards. She was thrilled. When she was done talking to me, she put her 9-year-old granddaughter on the phone, and she thanked me. And I just felt like, you know what? That's why I do this, right? That's why I do what I do. I just want to make sure that people get the right information. And I know people accuse me of having an agenda. I really don't. Right? Like, there are people that I don't like. I don't like Steve Saber, but read last month's Valley Patriot. I gave him an A grade on the budget. I think I gave him a B grade on policy. If I had an agenda, he'd get an F on everything. If I was going based on who I like and who I don't like, that guy would have got Fs across the board. I can't stand him. I think he's probably one of the most corrupt officials in Methuen. But I try to be objective. And so when people say Tom Dugan's got an agenda, he doesn't like, all I ask my readers, all I ask the people who consume this show, just go look for yourself. Look at the product. Pick up the Valley Patriot and read it and see if it comports with what they're saying about me, because 90% of the time it doesn't. Because it's not about me. I don't care if you like me. I don't care if elected officials like me. I don't care if they're not my friend. I don't care if they hate me. What I care about is getting the right information, getting it out to the public, and a bonus if we can beat the Tribune to the story. Because I love it when we can beat the daily paper that employs like 15 editors and 25 reporters, and I'm like one guy sitting in my office and I'm still beating him to stories. I get a charge out of that. But that's the bonus. The real goal is, let's get the information, let's make sure it's right, let's get it out to the public. And you know what's funny, Eric? Saber, McCarty, Samad, they've all complained at city council meetings about the Tribune getting stuff wrong. They also attack me endlessly at city council meetings. But they've never said I got anything wrong. They don't like me. They don't like my opinions. They don't like my editorials. But never once has Steve Saber or McCarty or Beauregard or any of those guys got at a city council meeting and said, hey, there's a story in this month's Valley Patriot about Methuen and it's all wrong. We want to correct the record. It's bound to happen sooner or later because I'm human. Eventually I'm going to make a mistake, and I'm sure they'll jump all over it. But in 17 years, we've never had a Methuen City Council member attack us for getting the information wrong. So all I ask from you, Eric, is just get it right. Right? And if it makes me look bad, if it makes the paper look bad, if it makes my friends look bad, that's fine. If it's right. As long as it's right, that's all I care about. Mm-hmm. So are you really looking into going into like full-time journalism, or is this kind of like a side thing?
No, I'd really love to get into it, work my way up in journalism, particularly with sports, but I mean, that's what everybody wants to do nowadays.
Sports journalism is even more corrupt than regular journalism.
Oh, I can imagine.
I mean, those guys sell out to the league or the teams. Like, when was the last time you saw a bad story about the Red Sox in like the Herald or the Globe? Never, right? Or even the Patriots, right? You
can find plenty of negative articles about the Patriots.
Really? I'm going to have to go look
just
at that.
from the national media.
Right. All right, so let's see. What else do we have here? So I figured you'd be a little bit more chatty with us about stuff.
I'm sorry, do you want me to chat more?
Yeah, we do. We're going to fill an hour. I'm not even going to fill an hour, actually. It's going to be a short version of the show.
Right. I was really looking forward to Kirk coming on. So,
I was too.
Kind of disappointing. But.
I was too, and I was disappointed that we found out last minute because I would have prepared more.
Yeah.
I would have had more stuff. I had actually planned, if Kirk wasn't going to come, I had planned on bringing in the blacked out documents and putting them up on the screen so everybody could see how absolutely ridiculous it was that they blacked out the name and salary of DPW workers in the city of Methuen. It's just ridiculous. And by the way, I'm not doing anything different than what Neil Perry's doing, right? He did an management audit of the police department, and he said, when that's done, I'm going to do a management audit of DPW. So I'm just in line with what it is he's doing. I want the information from DPW too, and let's try and get ahead of that audit report, and we'll start reporting on some of the stuff that's going on down there. And then when I'm done with that, it's going to be the school department. And I have a feeling that's going to take a lot longer. I got a feeling when I start asking for documents in the school department, that's going to be a year-long process of blowing out stories, because I get calls all the time from people who work for the school department, and they say there's a lot there. So we're still trying to find out where the $4 million went. There's a $4 million override in Methuen. We're still trying to figure out where the money went. So yeah, we'll start asking that kind of stuff, and maybe I'll use Eric for some of that. We'll have Eric call people in the school department and see if they can get quotes and stuff, because they're not going to talk to me. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how It's amazing how these scumbag politicians love you at election time when you're putting their name in the paper and you're letting them come on the show and you're doing debates and giving them free airtime. They love you, Tom. You're the best, Tom. Tom, you want to come over to my family's house for Christmas? Tom, you want to go out with me and my wife for dinner? Tom, you're the best. And then they get in, and it's, oh yeah, we don't want you writing about us. No, he sucks. Don't talk to Tom Dugan. He's horrible. He's awful. Mike Samar, my friend for 25 years, gets elected, and 5 minutes after he gets elected, he starts shoving knives in my back because now he's an elected official. Now someone's here to hold him accountable. So it's going to be tough for you working for the Valley Patriot. I'm letting you know right out of the gate.
This is such an information overload. I mean, I just started working here.
I apologize for
I'm not
so
from
much
the community, and all of a sudden I got like 5 different rants you're going on at the same time.
But that's good. It's going to be trial by fire. Because if you can deal with it here, seriously, you'll be able to go anywhere. Like you go anywhere else after you've worked for me for a year or more, and tell them all the stuff that I made you do. Right? And you can even tell them what a bastard I am for making you doing it. And they're going to be like, really? You did all that? You even did like sales packets and stuff? Really? And they'll snap you up in 2 seconds. Unfortunately for you, you're not going to make any money. There's no money in this business. Like, even the best reporters at the Globe aren't pulling down enough cash to like pay their mortgage.
Yeah, and that's kind of at the crossroads that I'm at in my life, because like I could pursue a couple of different things that I'm passionate about and not make any money for years, or just go straight into a field in writing that's going to help me immediately and, help me save up and move out of the house. Right. So that's the classic crossroad that I think everybody comes to at some point in their life, especially about to graduate college. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm getting a graduation even. Really? Yeah.
Well, you're at St. Anselm's?
Yeah. An in-person graduation at least.
My nephew goes to St. Anselm's.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Dan and Cropra.
Oh, I've never met.
All right, we'll have to hook you guys up on Facebook. Yeah. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
21.
21. I think he's 19 or 20, so I think he's probably about a year behind you. But so you're not even sure if you're going to have a graduation this year? That's ridiculous.
No, I can't speak to it much because I haven't heard anything. But the way things are looking with COVID right now in Manchester, I'm not too sure about it. And if they give us a graduation, then the previous class's parents is going to be like, well, my kid didn't get a graduation. Why did they get to?
By the way, do you believe the reasons that they give for canceling all this stuff? Because I really kind of don't.
No, not really.
I mean, you can go to Mohegan Sun, right? You can go to Walmart. There's 500 people in Walmart. There's no social distancing. Half the people aren't wearing masks, and that's okay. But the guy that sells suits next door, who competes with Walmart, he's got to be closed. And it just seems like if you can go to a casino, if you can go to Walmart, if you can go to Target, you ought to be able to go to a restaurant. You ought to be able to have a graduation. We ought to be able to have a bash. But the problem is you get scumbag politicians in charge. When you have a good economy, it's because the scumbag politicians want us to have a good economy. And when the economy sucks, it's because the scumbag politicians for whatever reason, want the economy to suck. And so it's really all up to our elected officials at this point. But I'm just really disappointed that we were told 15 days to stop the curve, which became 6 months, which became a year. Then it became, once we have the vaccines, we'll go back to normal. Now they're saying even though you have a vaccine, you can't visit your grandmother in the nursing home. You still can't do this. You still can't go to work. You still can't do that. So I don't know when this is going to end. Maybe you can write a story about that at some point when we start to get to the end. Yeah. But it's screwing up the economy. It certainly screwed me up. It screwed up a lot of people. We made it, though. We made it through Columbia Gas and struggled for a year and a half to 2 years after Columbia Gas because 2/3 of my advertisers were closed when everything blew up. And we finally dug out of that. We finally got more advertising and we started to expand a little bit. And we finally got to where we were right before Columbia Gas and COVID hit. And so now it's going to take another year to dig it out, which is why we have to restructure. We're restructuring the whole corporation at this point. What else are you interested in? Tell us about you. What are you taking in school? What are you doing? Do you have a girlfriend? What's going on with you?
So I'm majoring in English, minor in communication.
Okay.
If the whole journalism thing doesn't really pan out, I'd love to get into tech writing. I feel like it'd be a stable job, something I could do well at. As far as on the side, as you know, I do stand-up. I'm really looking forward to that coming back.
Me too.
I've been dying without stand-up.
And he was good, folks.
Yeah.
He was funny. There were 10 or 12 comedians, and he came in second. And some of those comedians were really good. And some of those comedians have been doing it for a long time. And you've only been doing it a short amount of time, and you got up there and killed it.
Yeah.
Right? I think I criticized one joke about something you said that just hit me wrong, but but we're all grown ups. It's not going to bother me that much.
You said I should have dressed down more.
Oh yeah, because he was he's in a suit, and I was like, wow, what is this? So
I was at a meeting beforehand, that was formal, and I had to go straight from there to the show. So that's why I showed up dressed like I did.
Right.
I wasn't trying to upstage anybody, but I found it funny that you told me I almost disqualified you before you started because of how you dressed.
Right, yeah. Because you're going to be a comedian. Who wants to listen to a comedian in a three-piece suit, right?
Yeah.
How funny is that? That's the kind of boring corporate stuff.
Yeah, it's something I got to learn.
So what else are you interested in doing? I'm going to pick your brain because if I hear something that hits me, we'll have you do that too.
So I'm currently writing and pitching a movie script that I'm writing with a co-writer from Vegas.
See, now that's where the money is.
Yeah.
Screw all this journalism stuff.
So I connected with one of the alumni from my school who's actually a stand-up comedian, and he's been in a few things. And he actually hopped on a Zoom chat with us. He looked at our script, gave us some advice. So now we're kind of in the process of rewriting it. But we've talked to a couple producers, a couple of actors about it. No bites yet, but I'm really looking forward to pursuing that. It's been really fun.
I think you and I are going to get along just fine. Yeah. I'm working on my fourth book, and had COVID hit, it would have been out months ago if COVID hadn't hit. And what we wanted to do, we actually had a meeting maybe about 3 or 4 months ago about, for a long time I've been wanting to write a specific book. I'm not going to get into the details. But there's this, and I've got enough material in my head that I know I can easily get a good 300-400 pages out of it. But it would really be better as a movie. And I got a friend that's a movie producer, Daryl Silva. I know you guys know Daryl Silva, right? And I was thinking, maybe we'll have Daryl Silva do the script because I'm good at writing, but I'm not good at script writing. I wouldn't know how to write it as a script, so I could have to write it as a book, give it to somebody, and have him turn it into a script. And then we can shop it to Daryl if Daryl wants to do the movie or somebody else. But if this is something that, what I'm looking from you is I'm looking to find out where you want to go so I can tailor what we give you and then try and help you do it so that it helps you and it helps us.
Right.
I'm a believer in the win-win-win scenario,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I would definitely be interested in that. There's this book that the alumni told us to get, and it helped me greatly with rewriting this thing. It's called Save the Cat. And it's probably the best book on screenwriting that's out there right now.
You have to pick
it's
that
amazing.
up.
Yeah.
If one of my girls are listening, you can order that for me on Amazon. That'd be great.
You got girls?
I do. Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I don't have when I'm out with someone and I introduce them as my friend because they're not my girlfriend. Because I date. I don't have one girlfriend. I just date. And they're like, well, that's kind of weird. He introduced her as his friend, but she kind of looked like she's his girlfriend. And then a few nights later, I'll be out with someone else, and they'll see me, and I'll introduce my friend, because she's not my girlfriend. I dated the other girl 2 nights earlier. And they're like, so what is this all about? Some people don't understand singleness for some reason. For some reason, you're supposed to have one person, and that's it. I don't know why I went down that road.
I hear you, Tom.
What's that?
Do you feel judged?
I do. Even when Richard Lawrence was here, and even Neil Perry when he was here about a month ago, said something like, "You're a walking HR violation," because I said something about, he said something about my smoking, and I said, yeah, every woman in my life gives me crap about my smoking. Now, I was talking about like my mom, my sister-in-law, like other women in my life, and of course, people always take it the way they want to take it. They always take it in some scurrilous way. So I'm just looking to, and it's great that we're doing this on air too, because it's kind of,
I'm just
fun,
glad
right?
you're not vaping, honestly.
Really? Yeah. No, I'm not a big fan of vaping.
No, go classic.
Yeah.
Cigarettes the man.
Cigarettes or cigars. Otherwise, you're kind of a sissy, I think, at that point, right? Yeah.
I like a nice cigar.
Right. Do you really?
I do, yeah.
Oh, the guys here are going to love you. Let me introduce you to Dave when he comes out after the show.
What gave it away?
See, right? So, do you watch the news at all? Do you follow any of the national politics?
I do, yeah. I try to stay away from, some of the biased sources out there.
Mm-hmm. Which is really like all of them?
Yeah, which is all of them. But, it just kind of makes me sad at a certain point.
Yeah.
I think the last time I watched the news was like the Capitol protests, the riots. After that, I was just like, I kind of need a break.
Yeah. Well, Tucker Carlson's under fire today. If you're on Twitter, he's been trending since yesterday because he, unfortunately for him, made a comment last night that George Floyd died of a fentanyl overdose. And boy, oh boy, did the fascists come out of the woodwork to boycott his advertisers. Why does he have this platform? Letter writing campaigns, phone campaigns, trying to get him pulled off the air. So I went online because before I defend anybody, I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about. I went online and I pulled up the autopsy report, at least the parts that are public, and it really kind of does look like the guy died of a fentanyl overdose. Now, by the way, those who are screaming bloody murder about this, saying that Tucker Carlson's covering up for the police officer that had their knee on his neck, he didn't say anything. He didn't say that was a bad thing. Like, he didn't come out and say, no, what the cop did was okay because he died of a fentanyl overdose. He didn't say that. You can actually have both opinions at the same time, that the cop was wrong for doing what he did, and that may have contributed to his death, but he really died. The amount of fentanyl in his system was so friggin' high that he most likely did die of a fentanyl overdose. Those two things can coexist. One does not negate the other. But unfortunately, in this current media atmosphere, you're only allowed to have one opinion about stuff. Like, the cops are bad, this cop was bad, this cop did it wrong, and then don't talk about anything else. And so Tucker was making a point about something else. He was making a point about how all the riots came from George Floyd's death. And now suddenly there's this big, huge boycott they're trying to do a big, huge boycott of Tucker Carlson. And they're calling him all kinds of names, and it's misinformation, and it's a lie. And these are the problems you're going to have when you're in journalism is the people who you work for are going to want you to lie. They're going to want you to write stories that don't say there was fentanyl in his system. Don't include that. We only want you to say that the cop killed him because the cop had his knee on his neck. And again, according to the autopsy, while that may have contributed to it, and the cop was still wrong, and the cop should still go to jail, and he should still lose his job, and they should all lose their jobs, that doesn't mean that there's still other mitigating factors that contributed to that. And so I'm hoping that the time you spend, whatever short time you spend here at the Valley Patriot, that if you learn nothing at all except for this moving forward, that the truth is more important than than the narrative people want you to give. And that's what we try to do. And there's always boycotts. We have Methuen City, get this, we have Methuen City councilors saying on Facebook, I'll even tell you who they are, DJ Beauregard, Mike Samad, Steve Saber, went on Facebook and advocated that the public hurt Methuen businesses because they didn't like who those Methuen businesses were doing business with. Now imagine you're in the middle of COVID, you've laid off most of your employees, you're struggling, you're trying to stay alive, you're advertising with everybody that you can to try and get new customers into your store, and you've got elected officials trying to hurt Methuen businesses. Like, if that's not the scummiest thing I've ever heard of in my life, I don't know what is. And so you're going to be dealing with a lot of that stuff. I'm kind of giving you all the bad stuff to expect, like in the journalism business, because it's hard. Like, we write a straight news story with no opinion in it, and then we get attacked for the straight news story because we just simply published the facts. I guarantee, like, we had I did a story on a Methuen police officer out to Hardy, and civil service had issued some ruling that he had done something incompetent. I don't remember what it was. And we reported that they said that this officer did something incompetent. All of his friends and all of his family comes on my Facebook. You're only doing that because you're friends with Joe Solomon. You're only doing that to hurt Arthur Hardy. You're only doing... Honestly, people, it's a news story. I didn't add any opinion to it whatsoever. I got an email from civil service saying this is what our ruling is, and I posted it. And yet there are still people who are going to try and distract from the actual topic and make it about you. Right. Don't ever let them make it about you. When they make it about you, then the information's irrelevant at that point. Yeah. So I always keep bringing people back. Okay, when they attack me on the meetings and stuff, I say, you're right. I'm a horrible guy. I kick puppies. I steal money out of the church poor box on Sunday, and I rob little old ladies of their pocketbooks. Having said that, now let's talk about the information that I just published. Is it correct or isn't it correct? And now they got nowhere to go. Right? I suck. You're right. I suck. I'm horrible. I have an agenda. I'm terrible. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, what's the real story? What's the information that's before us? And that's what I try to do. I always try. Now, I'm human. I make mistakes. Yeah. But that's what I try.
You really shouldn't be kicking puppies, by the way.
Yeah, well, I'm a horrible person. Right? I'm a horrible person, and I have an agenda, and it's just a propaganda.
No, I do know what you're saying, and when the story becomes about certain people, that's what you can expect.
Right.
I mean, it's easy when you can just write a story like a car accident. Like, car crashed into a store yesterday. The driver was fine. There were no injuries, blah, blah, blah. That's nothing anybody's going to get upset over.
Oh, you think so?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. Your viewers better than I do.
Right.
But
I can tell you, I wrote a story. I published a story 3 months ago in Methuen. A kid died was it on Pelham Street? The kid died in that accident. A kid died in an accident on Pelham Street, I think about 3 months ago. And somebody at the scene took a picture of them doing CPR on the guy. So I included it in my story and I posted it. And I got inundated with people who were saying, you don't have the permission of his family to publish that. How dare you? If that was your family member, would you want to see that on Facebook? Yes, I would. Yes, I would. And I've even told all my producers, if I have a heart attack while I'm doing this show, you do not cut the feed. I want my viewers to know exactly what happened when I died before the Tribune can screw up the story of my death. If it's real and if it's true, it should be published. That's my philosophy. Yeah. So I had all these people coming on attacking me about this poor kid that died in a car accident. And they'll never forget it. I'll be an enemy for life to these people because they think somehow I crossed the line. But that's because most people don't even know what fucking journalism is. Excuse my French. They just don't. Because there's so much bad journalism out there that they don't even know what real journalism is anymore. It's just like you said, the facts. It's a car accident. Kid died. Here's the particulars. I don't think I named the kid because I didn't know if the family had been notified. Mm-hmm. But if a cop tells me, yeah, the family's been notified, I'll put the name in. And then I'll get attacked by people who don't even know him. How dare you? I bet his family wasn't notified yet. And then I have to go, yeah, the family was notified. I actually do my job. I checked before I published it.
Right.
But
another thing
I guess what I'm saying is even things that you think are going to be mundane are going to cause problems.
Well, it's something you obviously know pretty well is that, like, to most people nowadays online, complaining is a sport. Mm-hmm. It's a game to see who can be offended the most,
right? And
who can garner the most amount of sympathy and attention. And I'm sure you get that all the time from people that
No matter what I publish, like no matter what, I was going to do the DPW story in Methuen in June. Right? We had heard the rumors and stuff, but it really started to get loud last June. And so I was going to submit the public records request for that. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. They're going after Joe Solomon, the police chief. They know Joe and I are friends. If I do this now, and it turns out that Steve Saber's son is the highest paid DPW guy getting overtime, et cetera, they're going to say, look, he's attacking the people that are going after his buddy Joe Solomon. This is all about Joe Solomon. So I said, okay, I'll sit back, and I won't do it. And I'll wait for the Joe Solomon thing to be resolved because we had a feeling that it was going to be resolved like within a few months at least. And I waited till it was done. And then when it was done, I waited a few more weeks and I said, okay, now the handcuffs are off and now I'm going to do this. And the minute that I submitted my public records request, DJ Beauregard the city council went on Facebook and called me propaganda and accused me of doing it and going after the people that got rid of Joe Solomon. So I would have been screwed in June and I'm screwed now. So my philosophy is I don't give a crap what people say anymore. I'm just going to, if I have an idea to do a story, if I have an idea to ask for records, I don't care what they're going to say. I don't care what excuse they're going to make. I don't care if they attack me. I'm just going to ask for it.
Right.
And that's just, I mean, I've tried the other way and it just doesn't work. I tried being friends with these guys. It just doesn't work because they're the ones that have the agenda. It's like always the people who accuse you of something, they're doing what they're accusing you of.
Right.
They're the ones that have the agenda. So,
and that's why I'm so happy to be working for you too, by the way, because, you know, I'm sure if we went down a list of issues, we would probably disagree on a lot of things.
And that's okay.
Yeah, but I really appreciate that, you know, you speak your mind. You don't let anybody alter the way you present the news, and I definitely would not call you propaganda. And that's why I'm glad to be on board.
I appreciate that. Kissing my ass is going to get you very far at this Valley Patriot.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, like
I learned that before.
Right? Yeah, well, listen, I have people who write for me that write stuff that I totally disagree with. And I have people, conservative friends of mine, because I'm conservative, will call me and say, did you defect? Did you become a Democrat? Are you a liberal now? I'm reading your paper and I'm reading this thing and how could you believe this? And I said, I don't. What's in your paper? Right, but I didn't write it. It was written by Linda Campbell, or it was written by Diana DeZoglio, or it was written by Eric Spagnoil now, right? Mm-hmm. When you read the Valley Patriot, this isn't all Tom Dugan's opinion, right? This is news stories. There are some opinions in here, but they're the opinions of the people who write it. They're not my opinions. Mm-hmm. We have a lesbian who writes for us every once in a while. She writes a lesbian column, and it's about lesbian stuff, right? And I was always against gay marriage. Then again, I'm against all marriage. You know, I didn't agree with, I don't think any, she wrote, I think probably about 30 columns for us over the years. I can't imagine looking back and finding one that I agree with, right? But it doesn't matter if I agree with it. It's because it's not about it's not about my opinion. My opinion has my name on it. The editorial is the opinion of the board. It's usually my opinion. I usually write it. I don't always write it, but it's the opinion of the board. We'll sit down and say, what's a good issue this month to kind of throw an editorial out about? We'll kick some ideas around. Usually I'll write it, and then I'll show it to them, and they'll say, no, I don't agree with this part, take that out, because the editorial represents the whole board. My opinion in my column, in the paying attention column, is just my opinion. Everything else is the opinion of the people who write. Now, you're writing reports, you're not doing opinions, right. But you watch how quickly someone is going to email you in the coming months accusing you of having an agenda because you wrote a certain story that made somebody look bad or made somebody look good that they don't like. Mm-hmm. You know, the level of hatred that's out there, I've never seen anything like it in my life. And it's not just the Merrimack Valley. And it's sad that it is the Merrimack Valley, especially Methuen. But the level of hate out there is just so high in the whole country about everything. I mean, they're attacking Tucker Carlson. They're attacking Lou Dobbs. They're taking people off the air. Facebook is censoring people. They're canceling their accounts because they're saying things like, I don't believe masks work, right? Well, we know masks don't work, right? That's not even something that's an opinion. We know masks don't work. If they worked, we wouldn't have opened up the jails and let everybody out. We would have just given them masks. We wouldn't have closed the schools. We just would have given the kids masks. But you can't tell the truth anymore. You can't tell it in print. You can't tell it online. And so I'm looking forward to having somebody like me, or at least with my journalistic philosophy, coming on board with the Valley Patriot and only being interested in telling the facts and not being interested in who it's going to piss off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely what I want to try to do. And I really don't have a strong opinion on much. I mean,
that's good.
Yeah, no, I really just want
You're going to get accused of it, though.
Yeah, no, I know. And I'm ready for it. But I check out your Facebook comments sometime, just the level of hatred. I mean, you're
huge.
Spot on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
I could post the word blue. That's it. Just the word blue. And there'll be 500 people calling me an asshole. And I'm like, it's a one word. It's the word blue. And you've seen it before. Like, you go on my Facebook page. It's disheartening that that's where we are psychologically as a nation. But we're here, and I'm trying to hold the line. And I love that when I said to you on the phone, there's no money to be made in this business, and journalism is dead, and you said, I want to try and save it anyway. I was like, you know what? I was ready to say no to this guy. Now I'm going to say yes. Because if there's more people coming into the journalism business that have that philosophy, that I don't care who I piss off, I don't care who likes it, this is how I feel, or this is what the information is, that's just what it is. Now, did you watch the impeachment at all?
No, I've been stacked with work this week. I'm just coming out of my bubble right now
Right.
for this podcast, honestly.
So I watched the impeachment yesterday. I didn't watch the first day because I couldn't. But I was at the office all day yesterday with computer problems, so I threw on CNN and I watched the impeachment trials. And I posted on Facebook that the Democrats have made a really compelling case to convict Trump. I'm a Trump supporter. I supported him. If he runs again, I'll probably vote for him again. But boy, they made a really compelling case that he incited some of that, and that with his, I don't want to say lies, because I think he really believes it. I think he really believes the election was stolen. I think he really believes all of that, and some of it actually is true. There were some shenanigans. I don't know that it was enough that it would have changed the election. But I just went on Facebook and said, you know what? As loathsome as the Democrats are, they made a very compelling case for convicting Trump today. And all of the Trump people came on. My friends, people I stood with and held signs, people I went to Trump rallies with. Tom, you're going soft. You're defecting. Tom, you're a traitor. Tom, are you going to the Democrat side? No, I'm just objectively watching the evidence and saying they're making a compelling case.
And I'm not aware of the legal definition of inciting.
Mm-hmm.
But when Trump gave his announcement during those riots and he said, this was an election that was stolen from us. We love you, but you have to go home.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to go home should come first.
Right.
That's why, I'm not a Trump supporter, and part of that is because when shit hits the fan, he's not the guy that's going to calm everybody down.
Right.
That's
true.
He's
I
going to
agree
get
with
everybody riled up.
Right.
And I think he kind of played off of that, and I think there are certain parts of this country that need to be riled up, but not in the way that he went about it.
Yeah.
And I just think that was a classic example of, the wrong finger on the button.
Right. I don't think he ever thought that his crowd would ever get violent, because it had never happened before. We saw riots all over the country. We saw in Baltimore. We saw all over the country all summer. We saw last year all these Black Lives Matter rallies. And we also saw all last summer all of those Trump rallies, and there was never any violence. So I don't think he ever thought in his head that they were going to do something like that. I don't think he realized the gravity of how his words were stirring up the dumbest among his supporters. Right? I support him, but I never would have done that. 90% of the people that went to that rally, 99% of the people that went to that rally didn't do anything bad, didn't storm the Capitol, didn't hurt anybody. And I don't think he ever thought it would get to that. But I think that's also part of the problem. I think when you're the president and you're saying these things and you're inciting people, and when I say inciting, I don't mean legally inciting, but you're telling them that your vote was stolen. You're telling them we have to take back our country. And even though you mean it rhetorically, there are idiots out there who support every politician who are going to take what they say literally.
Right.
And I think I'm going to watch what the Republican response is. I watched some of it yesterday. It was horrible. I'm going to watch the rest of it before I actually make my mind up. But if I was a senator right now, I'd be leaning toward convicting him. I would.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean at the end of the day that's how I'm going to feel. I'm just watching it like a jurist, like a member of the jury. But it's just so sad that CNN and ABC and NBC and all of the rest of the news media are acting as if there's only one side to this story. It's Trump was wrong, Trump incited, Trump's a racist, Trump's a Nazi, Trump is bad, and that's it. And there's no other mitigating factor to even look at. And so that's why I do this. That's why I do this show. That's why I have the Valley Patriot. That's why I do a lot of the things that I do, because I'm really only just interested in the truth. And if the truth hurts me, it hurts me. If the truth somehow benefits one of my enemies politically or whatever, that's fine, because it's the truth. And I think we're all big boys and girls. I think we can handle the truth. Yeah. Unfortunately, half the country doesn't really seem like they can handle the truth.
No.
So, anything else? We actually burned an entire hour just chatting, which is good.
Yeah, I know. I was kind of surprised when I looked over at the clock.
This is actually what it would have been like in my office if I was interviewing him. If he'd come to my office asking to intern, this is what it would have been like. So you guys at home got a chance to. I didn't even look to see how. Do we have anybody actually watching, Chrissy? Is there anybody here? Oh yeah, we
got like 17 people watching. We had like 26 earlier.
Yeah, and those numbers are always wrong because it says 20, but then when you go offline, it says like 450.
There you go.
Right, so I think they only count like the people that are your Facebook friends. I think if you have people that share it out and then other people join, I don't think it counts them. But we get a full count at the end of the show. So I guess that's it. We can wrap up the show, I guest. You have anything else you want to talk about your story? You want to take 2 minutes to talk about your story?
Yeah. So COVID-19 in the Valley, we have the updated numbers as of the date it was published, which I believe was the
Tuesday.
So I
The
got to
9th?
look at my calendar.
It's the 9th.
The 9th?
I think so.
Yep. The 9th. So a couple of those numbers have changed. For example, I just looked at the Lawrence website. We had 3 new COVID-related deaths in Lawrence. So that has spiked. I was really interested to dig into the COVID worlds that are happening in the towns right now. Honestly, I didn't even know the vaccines had arrived until I started looking at those websites, the town sites. So it was a really eye-opening experience and really showed me how much research it goes into writing a good story.
Right, and it was a short story, but it probably took you a long time.
Yeah, it was only about 500 words, but I must have done, at least 6-7 hours of research. Just because, a problem with this is some of the town sites don't have their COVID numbers available on their sites. Rather, they refer you to the Massachusetts site or the CDC, and even then you have to go through like 5 different pages to get the information you're looking for.
And I would have given up on the second page, which is why I'm glad we got
you. Exactly. But it was a good introduction to journalism. It was a good first story, and I'm really excited to see the updates and see how many people end up getting vaccinated.
Right. All right. I guess we can wrap this up. Chrissy, what's it like being, this is your first week doing the show? What do you think?
Had an absolute blast, Tom.
Excellent.
Yeah. Happy to be here.
Anytime a beautiful woman says anything positive about me or my show, I'm happy. So,
and I didn't bitch about you smoking.
No, you didn't. Well, it is a smoke shop, by the way.
Whoa.
But if ever a guest comes in, or if anybody ever comes in and says, "Geez, could you not smoke?" I'm always happy to just not smoke if that's what they want.
You're never gonna hear.
I asked Eric when Eric came in. I'm like, if you don't want me to smoke, I won't smoke. But otherwise, I'm a chimney. I'm at 2 packs a day. So, with the amount of stress in my life, I'm surprised I'm not at 4 packs a day. So, all right. Well, I hear Melvin Taylor. So wait, we have to thank our advertisers. Appreciate McLennan Real Estate. We love Sam and everybody over at and Matt and Janet and everybody over at McLennan Real Estate Century 21. We love them. If you're going to buy a house, if you're thinking of selling your house, now's the time to do it. Property values are going up, so this is the time to be doing it. Call McLennan Real Estate Century 21. AFC Urgent Care. You can go there, get your COVID test. I think they're actually going to be getting vaccines very shortly. Lisa was here 2 weeks ago. She said they're going to be getting the vaccines. Marsan and Son Construction. I've got to call into Ronnie Marsan to see if he can come on the show, because we're trying to get him to run for city council against Steve Saber. EIS Investigations and Gun Training. Now, if you want to get a gun permit in Massachusetts, you have to go take a class. This is the place to go. Go to EIS Investigations for your gun training. They'll walk you through the process. You take a class with about 20 other people, and then when they give you your certificate, then you can go apply for your gun license. Let's see, who else we have? Borelli's Deli. I'm a little off my game stage. You notice? I'm kind of... No?
You're doing fine, Tom.
Right,
just
okay.
keep going. You're doing great.
She's placating me. Borelli's Deli, which is where I always go after the show to pick up my deli meats. I didn't realize that they just have deli meats. I thought they just had deli meats. I didn't realize they also have like chicken and steak and all that stuff, steak tips. So I get those there now too. Clear Path for Veterans New England. They've got a great story in this edition of the Valley Patriot, and we will have Jason Gilbert back with the crew. Andover Optical, and a special shout out to Mr. Lowe at Jasmine's Computer Service, who is fixing my computer as we speak. Hopefully he can retrieve the data. Sounds like Melvin Taylor says we got to go home. Yep, he does, so go home already.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.